So good evening. This is the Underhill Development Review Board hearing. It is Monday, July 1st, 2024. This is a preliminary subdivision review hearing on the application by the United Church of Underhill for a 9-lot planned residential development at 442 Vermont Route 15 in Underhill, Vermont. This application is subject to the review under the 2011 Unified Land Use and Development Regulations as amended through March 3rd, 2020. And the 2015 Road Driveway and Trail Ordinance as amended through December 18th, 2018. The Development Review Board classified this as a major subdivision during our sketch plan review meeting on Monday, December 4th, 2023. The purpose of preliminary subdivision review is to review a draft subdivision plat and supporting documentation to determine preliminary conformance with the municipal plan, these regulations, and other municipal ordinances in effect at the time of the application. It's also intended to identify particular issues or concerns with the proposed subdivision, to recommend modifications necessary to achieve conformance, and to identify any additional information required for submission for final subdivision review prior to the preparation of a final survey plat. Should additional information be required, the board reserves the option to continue the hearing to a time and date certain in order for that information to be submitted and reviewed by this board. The exhibits as submitted a part of this application, sorry, I lost my place. As part of this application are available for review under United Church of Underhill Preliminary Subdivision Review File, docket number DRB 23-09 at the Underhill Zoning and Planning Office. And all the information that the board is considering at this hearing is available on the town's website. Copies of the rules of procedure that the board follows are available for review at the front counter and can be obtained from the interim planning and zoning administrator. The order of speakers we are here tonight, first we'll hear and ask questions of the applicant or their representatives. We'll hear and ask questions of the interim planning and zoning administrator. We'll give other people in the room a chance to speak under our rules of procedure. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. However, that time can be extended upon request and majority consent of the board. Anybody participating remotely will have an opportunity to participate after we take care of everyone in the room. And final comments will then be solicited from all parties. All speakers should address their comments to the board and not to other parties present at the hearing. Board members may feel free to ask questions of any speaker. Are there any state or municipal representatives present and acting in their representative capacities? Let the record say none. An interested party information sheet is available to all attendees at the front counter or from the zoning and planning administrator. Please review it for additional information. Only those interested persons who have participated either orally or through written statements in a DRB proceeding may appeal a decision rendered in that proceeding to the Environmental Division of Superior Court. If you're an applicant, representative of the applicant, or an interested party who wants to participate in the hearing, we'll have you come to the witness chair, clearly state your name, residential address, and mailing address if it is different. It would also be helpful if we knew your email address. I'm now going to swear in all those present who wish to speak tonight. All individuals who plan to testify must take the following oath by responding "I do" at the end. And the oath goes, do you hereby swear that the evidence you give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? Okay. Are there any conflicts of interest or have there been any ex parte communication on part of the board members? No. At this point in time, I'm going to enter into the record the information package that was sent out by the Planning and Zoning Administrator prior to this hearing. The information included in this packet relevant to the hearing is listed as Exhibits A through Exhibit S, which is all available on the town website. We received a new exhibit today. Well, the board received it today. We received it on June 27th, signed by 6 residents of Meadow Lane subdivision, outlining stormwater concerns. Their street addresses are 5, 6, 10, 11, 14, and 18 Meadow Lane.
All right, this is Penny Miller. Charlie, that will be Exhibit T.
Correct. That's at least my count, Exhibit T. That'll be available at the town website if you don't have a copy of it, George. Did you get a copy? Yeah, all right. So what we'll do is begin and hear testimony from the applicant or their representative. So George, that would be you, I guess. Okay. Yep.
Okay, I think I'm green and good to go. So yeah, good summary of the proposed project. Not much has changed from the sketch plan review that we had, except we've added a significant amount of detail to the project. We're proposing a planned residential development of 9 lots, which will primarily be for residential use. Of those proposed lots, lots 1 through 7 will be for 6 single-family residences and 1 duplex for a total of 8 homes. Lot 8 will be retained as open space for the residential subdivision. That includes the primary, most of the wetlands, buffers, primary agricultural soils, etc. Lot 9 will be conveyed to the church, United Church of Underhill, and then merged with their existing land that's contiguous to the property. So we've kind of shown on the site plans, if you're looking through the pieces through there, we've got a shared access road that will be coming in off of Route 15 that will serve all the residential units. We'll have short individual driveways for each residence. The homes will be served by a shared on-site wastewater system and connections to the town of Underhill municipal water system. We've clustered that development to the best of our ability to avoid any impacts to wetlands or any other natural resources that are identified in the Underhill land use regulations, and try to provide a nice kind of compact development that preserves the sanctity of that open meadow. As part of the PRD process, there are 2 waivers that we're requesting. We're requesting modifications to the dimensional standards for the Underhill Flat Zoning District. First is for lot size. Since we're clustering those developments, we're requesting lots that are less than the 1 acre minimum lot size as part of the PRD. And then second, we're requesting a 10-foot interior setback modification from the standard 20-foot. We will be maintaining 20 feet to the exterior property lines. That would only be the internal lines within the subdivision. So I'm happy to go through we kind of prepared a response to all the general standards and subdivisions. I don't know if we need to go through all that in detail or if there were specific questions you guys were looking at and wanted to address.
Why don't we assume everybody read that?
Perfect.
And get to the meat, right? So infrastructure questions that this board's going to have are municipal water supply, right? Mm-hmm. You're served by municipal water supply. Are you going to bring any other utilities in there, such as natural gas or anything like that? And then stormwater is the big one. How is the stormwater going to be managed?
Okay, so yes, it will be a connection to the municipal water supply. We've kind of kicked off that process. Wanted to make sure we've got approvals through the town for the number of lots we need before we go through and finalize those permits and pay all the application fees. But we will be looking at municipal water supply. I believe we will bring in underground natural gas lines to provide those through there. I actually haven't talked in that with detail for Habitat Humanity, who is going to be the ones ultimately developing the sites, but I assume that will be the case. And then for stormwater, we've prepared a few stormwater plans that are in the attached plan set you guys have here, primarily SW2 and SW3. So our stormwater mitigation plan here, we're going to be raising up the house sites by bringing in up to 2.5 feet of fill to raise those house sites up. And that will allow us to provide some positive drainage throughout the site because it is relatively flat and has some small undulations that we observed during the site visit today.
Do you want me to put that up on the screen, George? Or...
Sure.
Sure. Just bear with me a minute because it's not as easy as it sounds. because you're gonna block the canopy. So you're gonna have to do we could probably bring it over just a hair, but it's purpose, it's the best we can do. You have the plan in your packet. Well, we can turn the screen a little bit. Just slightly. Just go easy with it. Just pivot the screen itself. Yep. Keep going. All right. So which one you want to pull up?
Preliminary plan set exhibit. I had it as attachment C in mine. I don't know what the exhibit is.
Plans and details.
Yes, is that the latest and greatest?
Yeah. Which one?
SW2. Nope, it's going to be one after that. There you go.
Okay, just bear with me a minute, Karen, here, while I'll get it up on the screen so everybody can see.
Feel free to move your chairs.
Well,
The living room, you can move the living room.
just bear with me a minute here. When I get it on the screen, we can take a look. So just- Hold on here. Just bear with me. This is kind of a stressful thing to do here. So just make sure I get this right. There. And I can zoom in.
If you would zoom in on the development envelope area.
Where you are?
Yep.
Why don't you zoom in where you want me to be and I'll look at that.
Right there.
I don't have a professional version. How's that?
That should do the trick. I think that gets most of what we're looking at here. Perfect.
Well, hang on. This is where he wants to see it. How's that? There you go.
I think that'll work for what we're describing. We can move around if folks have questions. So you can see we've got some proposed contour lines shown on here. Those are the solid lines with the solid black dots. That's where we'll be grabbing existing contours and then adding in or cutting as necessitated to provide that stormwater positive drainage that I discussed. So we bring up those house sites from up to 2.5 feet, and then we'll be excavating out a swale on the low side that we walked along during our site visit today. So we'll have drainage coming from the top of the screen through a set of culverts that will run under the shared access road. They'll go down to the low point of the site where we're constructing the swale. There's a long pre-treatment swale that runs behind the 3 houses on the bottom side of the screen, or the 3 lots, 2 houses and a duplex. So we'll have a very shallow graded 4-foot wide pre-treatment swale that will run through there out to a level spreader at the end of the run, which will basically shed everything out as sheet flow out into the existing meadow. So it's a constructed level spreader that has a solid either piece of granite or pressure treated 4x4 and a stone splash pad that will allow some build up the water. It exits over as sheet flow, and then it will promote infiltration out into the meadow to provide stormwater treatment there.
So Karen, no one's hearing you. You got to just activate your mic.
Is Karen McKnight, is that something that's mechanical, or is it just going to happen?
It will happen naturally. Yep. So it's a small basin with a solid piece of wood on the end. So as the water fills up, it will have a nice level spot to go over and dissipate out the flow instead of providing like an erosive channel that might eat away at the soil. So it just gets built and it stays there and works passively.
Penny Miller. George, on SW3, you have a detail of that level spreader, But could you, to help me understand it, could you just tell me, going back to one of your plans, what is that? It's a section that you've got. Is that section a longitudinal section or cross section? What is that section?
So if we're looking at the sheet that's on the screen here,
Yeah,
that's a cross section that runs in the same direction as the swale, so sideways across the screen.
okay.
And that's at the front end of you can see where it's got the darker shade right underneath area one?
Yes.
Yes. So that's a horizontal cross section of that piece of
I see.
infrastructure.
Okay,
And then downhill of that is what we call a disconnection area. That will be the primary area where stormwater infiltration happens for the more common, less intense storms.
it dips down?
No, it maintains a constant pitch.
Pitch.
At a
Okay, yeah.
Less
it
than
pitches
3%.
down.
But yes, it pitches
Pitches
down.
down. Okay. I think I get it.
Can you explain the culverts? So where are they going to run?
So I think we're showing 2 on here at the moment. Let me jump back over to that sheet.
Okay. What sheet is it?
SW, it's shown on this one as well. I was looking at the detail sheet answering Penny's question.
Right.
So we've got 2 culverts, well, 2 culverts under the drive and then 4 culverts total. So the first one is going to be right at if you scroll up a little bit, Brad, right at the corner of lot 1, you can see there's a dashed line that runs underneath the road with a 6 on either side. So that's the culvert and associated head walls, and that will.
And how's the water going to get there?
We've
How's it going to know to go to the culvert?
No, we've got basically we'll be building up the road, so it'll be funneling everything down towards that culvert from the uphill side.
Okay. And then where's the others?
The others, if you continue down the road, there's one that starts on lot 5 and runs out to the intersection of lots 2 and 3. So you can see, yep,
Okay. And,
right there.
and so you're expecting the water to run between the houses? Because of how
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And then we're showing some sumps and whatnot through there. And then at the driveways for lot 6 and lot 4, we have transverse culverts under the driveway. So those are the uphill 2 lots, the one furthest to the right.
Oh, I see.
And then, yep,
Why not this one?
that's at the high point. So we're grading down either direction. So that driveway will be the high point. One will shut off. It'll crown driveway shutting off both directions.
Gotcha. And then, okay, so it goes this way, then what happens?
Yep, it runs down into that
And make it run
collection
around the
area.
house?
Yep.
Okay.
And then there's an uphill diversion swale uphill of the houses. You can see just above that bold dashed line, there's the line that has arrows on it.
Yep.
So that's an uphill diversion swale that will divert runoff from up the hill around the house sites. So we're only worried about collecting water that actually, stormwater that's
From the
generated
house
on the
area.
house site, not getting it from up above.
Pardon me, George, I'm just trying to find that diversion swale.
So you see the bold dashed line that's up above the house sites?
Yes.
Then just above that, there's another line that has arrows on it. It's a thinner, fainter color, but it has the,
Yes.
yep.
So your mic's either. Why don't you just why don't everybody just turn one on then and see if that.
Okay. Okay, I see that. Thank you. Do we want?
Oh, I'm sorry, the blue dashed line is a soil group type. So when we do the stormwater hydrologic modeling,
Yeah.
different soil characteristics have different runoff parameters. So
Okay. Thank you.
George, this is Penny. I just wanted to compliment you on how your legends actually go with the drawings.
we
which
try
I-
really hard. We're not always
I
successful.
really appreciate that. But except for one drawing,
Oh, okay. There was a but.
which was the SW2. So I just wanted to be clear about this.
Okay.
Oops, oh, am I, sorry. Okay, hold on. So on SW2, the blue dashed and dot lines look to be the wetland buffer in the legend, but they are not. Those are lines between the soil types?
Well, there's 2 blue lines on the plan, and you're correct. The
Yes.
soil boundary layer did not make it on the legend, so my apologies. The solid blue and solid green are intended to be the wetland and the wetland buffers.
Yes.
And then the dashed blue line kind of runs through the house sites. If you look at the plan here, you can see it's running through some of the houses.
Right.
That's a soil boundary layer that it did get missed from the legend, so my apologies there.
Okay. All right, that's good. I just want to be clear that that wasn't really some large wetland.
Correct, yeah, no, that's
stretching
a
around there.
soil boundary that didn't make it on the legend.
May I ask a couple more stormwater questions? Is this
Absolutely.
appropriate? On exhibit, pardon me, 1 second, exhibit P, which was actually your sketch plan review package, you show under C1 a stormwater structure past that level spreader to the right of it. That is not on this plan.
Correct.
Was that inadvertently left off, or that was a conscious decision?
That was a
design
conscious decision. When we went in for a sketch plan, we knew we were going to have to do something for stormwater infrastructure, but we weren't exactly sure what yet. So before investing the thousands of dollars into the hydraulic modeling and the stormwater analysis, we threw a structure that we know would work, but I didn't go through the fine-tuned design and all the hydraulic modeling. So after doing review through the state regulations, this will be subject to a state of Vermont operational stormwater permit. So we went through the design manual for that and analyzed the site per the state criteria and found that that structure wasn't needed. The level spreader was suitable to meet the state regulations.
Which, Penny again, brings me to this question. The stormwater design, as you said, is per the Vermont state regulations. Has there been any discussion with your client or the larger clients about exceeding the design regulations for stormwater in anticipation of our changing climate? Or I just wondered if that was a discussion that had been had, or are you meeting the current state requirements?
I thought about that. I don't know that I explicitly had the conversation with the client, but the structures that we're using are what the state would refer to as a tier 1 structure. And as we did the hydraulic modeling, we showed that the water is being contained on the site. So we're infiltrating, the water's not escaping the site. So we're providing that infiltration and stormwater treatment while keeping everything on site and not going downstream. So I felt that this was the best solution.
And impervious surface plays a part in those design calculations, correct?
Correct.
So George, here's a question for you. I know that in a previous conversation we had, I believe at Sketch Plan, you said that the design, current design is beefed up from what we're actually seeing in impervious surface, so it could handle more impervious surface. But I wanted to make the point that I've been in town for a number of decades, and I've seen some developments always adding structures to them, because naturally, I mean, we would hope that people would add sheds, that their lawnmowers and their bicycles aren't going to just be sitting out in the yard. So people are going to add sheds. People may add carports. People may add accessory dwelling units onto their houses at some time in the future. So can we be comfortable that additional impervious surface would still fall under the design that you've created?
We try to be proactive with that. We do account for some extra impervious surface other than what's clearly depicted on the plan. So we generally, all these houses will not be exactly the same shape and exactly the same size. So we do account for some additional impervious surface when we do the hydrologic modeling, because we don't know exactly what is going on out there, and we try to be conservative and give our best estimate as to what a reasonable use of the land would entail. We're going to assume that they're not going to pave the entire 3/10 of an acre of the lot. And if they were to do something that excessive, it would require a permit amendment to make sure that the infrastructure is capable of handling it.
Okay.
But that's also a piece that's handled through the state operational stormwater permitting. There's a annual inspection requirement that's associated with those permits. So if the stormwater infrastructure is not operating correctly, or if the impervious surface for the overall subdivision as well as each individual lot vastly exceeds what the permit allowed for, then they would be required to get a permit amendment to account for that expanded impervious.
So George, if we could just summarize the stormwater management philosophy. 10-year, 24-hour storm, we're going for infiltration with, and you can correct me if I'm making the wrong assumptions, but primary method of stormwater management is for infiltration. Everything on site gets directed to the level, to the ditch and the level spreader that's on the western boundary of the property.
Correct.
Right. So if I exceed a design storm event, it overflows the level spreader, goes into the field where the wetlands are, and will eventually make its way towards Harvest Run. Or out.
Well, Harvest Run is uphill of this.
True,
that
true,
general
but that,
direction.
it's, let's call it the post office now. It'll eventually make its way down towards the post office, right? Have you guys done test pits there? I saw some test pit logs, but I wasn't quite sure where they were.
We did some test pits in the area for the replacement area designation, as well as for obviously the wastewater systems on the north side of the site.
Yeah. So in an event of a springtime or let's say late winter snow or rain event, and there's a significant amount of runoff, everything that's within the development will be directed towards the western boundary, kind of backside of the fire station lot, into the level spreader. And then that exceeds, and that'll get pushed kind of, I'll call it south towards the post office. Into
Yeah,
the
but it should be, there's low points within the field, so that's where, those wetlands are natural low points.
Yeah.
So those will be kind of detain that structure, and wetlands are actually a great thing for, that's part of the reason they get protected, is that they're great for water quality, for flood management, and for those kind of pieces.
So it'll be your testimony, you're going to utilize the functions of the wetland for stormwater retention in the event that the design storm is exceeded.
Correct.
All right.
I have a question about the fill. You say 2 to 2.5 feet. I'm wondering what drives that. Why not 3 or 5 feet? Is it cost or is it rate of runoff?
No, we can certainly do more. It has to do with the limited space available. So if we brought those houses up 5 feet, then you got a 4-foot drop off, and your driveways are pitched up at 10%. So it raised those up enough that the ponding in the field wouldn't affect or flood the house sites. But certainly this would still be a feasible design if they wanted to put an extra foot underneath there as we were going through and building, if they could reasonably flesh everything together.
Going back to the wetlands, have you, my mic is
No,
on.
just get it a little bit closer. I don't know. Maybe we don't have enough mics. I can't see.
Okay,
There you go.
so going back to the wetlands, have you done any projections to say if we have a 100-year storm, is that wetland going to be able to absorb the amount of water that will be expected to, be able to be handled?
I believe as part of the sketch request, we did do an analysis. I think it was the 25-year storm. I can't recall as I can pull it open here to confirm.
It was, you did 10-year and 25.
10-year and 25-year. And there was no increase in runoff within the swale that runs along Harvest Run and down through from the pre and post development condition based on this development. So we did look at that per this request during sketch plan.
Let me pull up that overall.
To go to Matt's question, if I could, this is Penny Miller. I would assume cost plays a part in this. You are raising the level of where you think the house would be, the footprint of the house on your plans, but not where the car would be, or not where the shed would be, right? So it could be that that's in a low-lying area. Your house is up, but your car is lower, just around the house proper. Could you raise the front part of every property, or could you extend the raising of the property from one to the next. So you've got it sort of around each house. Could it be, is it cost that would limit that? Like instead sort of.
But yeah, it's certainly
raising
possible from a grading perspective. It would just be added cost for
Cost,
the developer to bring that through, because it is, we are excavating a bit for that swale, but it is a net requirement to bring some fill in. I know they have budgeted to bring some fill in and do that because everybody's on the same page. We wanted to raise these house sites up because we knew that was the right thing to do for the design. And
And these are not crawl space with frost walls. This is a slab on grade. Is that what this is?
My understanding from Habitat is that they're going to be slab on grade. Yes, they may still have the stem wall, but they're going to be slab on grade.
Okay.
So how deep is the swale in the back?
Let's see.
I guess it would be east.
That's going to range from 1.5 to 2 feet deeper. So we're cutting out through there. We're trying to blend it in a little bit with the backside of the house sites,
Right.
but there will be kind of a constant 4 foot wide pitch. So it will vary a bit.
Because right now there's like the little stream, there's kind of a little footpath. It's going to be on the other side of that. When we were standing there, it was the high point where you said that's like an 8 foot difference. So would it be down below that? When we were just doing
Well,
this?
the 8 foot difference was looking up at the swale above.
Right. So where would this swale be? Just further?
So this swale would be along the opposite property line. So the side that the fire station is on, that end.
Okay, what's going to redirect the water in the back on the east side, uphill?
We've got
Where the
diversion
line with the
swale
arrows
up-
is.
So we've got the diversion
Yeah,
swale up
this.
above the houses.
This. How deep is this?
That's what Shamie.
Oh, I got you.
Sorry.
So that's a minimum 9 inches, but it can be deeper. So our standard detail is to do that as
So
a,
is this like the little stream? Where's the stream here?
it's just above the top of the screen. Yeah, so you can see there's a,
Just above this green or the green?
if you look in the green, there's a boulder squiggly line
Yeah,
that's
okay.
either side of the ditch.
And then there's a footpath, and that was like the high point that you were showing us during the walk, right, out on the field. That's like the 8 foot point.
Yeah, where the
Right around
birches were
here.
looking up.
And then this is quite a bit further down. Okay. Thank you.
Brad, do we have anything from the Underhill Jericho Fire Department regarding an ability to serve letter?
So I sent the fire department a link to the packet.
Yeah.
Haven't heard anything back from them yet, but I will ask them.
Okay.
Just have a couple of things, couple of questions on Exhibit D, the preliminary hearing review packet.
Which one, Dan?
Exhibit D.
D.
I think it's quick. It's the third page. 8.2.I is landscaping and screening. It talks about the wetland and buffer zones were previously hayed and will be allowed to grow to restore to their natural state. I'm just curious if that's entirely factual, or if that mowed path on the back in the wetland buffer will be continued to be mowed and used as a path, or if other parts of the fields may continue to be mowed to be utilized for events. And
No, I'm looking for that now. I did not realize that was in here.
it's okay.
Believe
I'm
the
just
intent
pointing it
that-
out. So
Yep, no, thank you. I believe the intent would be to continue allowing that to be hayed. And I know
Okay.
that Harvest Market uses a portion, or the church uses a portion of that field for their harvest market.
Yeah.
So we would continue the existing uses within that field of being hayed and for the harvest market, but no development on the wetlands or buffers.
yeah,
So thank you for pointing that out. I didn't realize that was in there.
all good. That's the impression I was under, is that it was going to continue to be hayed and stuff. So
Yep, no, that is correct. So I can update that if you'd like a revised exhibit, or we can.
Well, I just,
Take-
but prior to moving into final, I think that should be
Yep, absolutely.
squared up.
And that was 8.2 I. Oh, thank you. There it is.
And my other question was if there will be deed restrictions on lot 9, similar to what there will be on lot 8 for keeping it as open space.
That lot was going to be merged with the church, so it wouldn't be a separate parcel. I'm not sure that we've discussed whether there would be any restrictions on that moving forward or not, but I could certainly get clarification on that with the church. I don't believe that, I know there's no short-term intent to do anything out there, and I don't know what the long-term plan is.
Okay, that sounds good. I think with it being a PRD, that may be sort of embedded in the requirements to place.
Yeah, we certainly have the
Restrictions on
open
those
space lot.
open
We've certainly got to have the covenants on there. I'm not sure if lot 9 would encompass that as well or not, but certainly if they were going to change something, it would be altering a DRB approved plan. So they'd need to go through the process if something were to change, because right now we're proposing no development.
Yeah, okay, so proposing no development, but not necessarily deed restrictions.
Yes, and there may be a deed restriction. I just haven't asked that exact question, so I can get clarification for sure, but.
We're getting that one out there before final too.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Could we stick on that for just a moment? Lot 9, I had some questions myself. The church currently owns this entire project. So I just wondered, maybe Brad's clear about what that process would be. Is this a boundary line adjustment? It owns the property, it owns the adjacent property. Is lot 9 a boundary line adjustment? Is it technically considered part of the PRD, or is this not part of the PRD?
I consider this part of this application, but it's 2 different titles, right? So we have 2 different deeded titles, and the idea is it is a boundary line adjustment. It's part of this application.
Okay, but would it be conveyed as a boundary line adjustment, do you feel, as part of our decision?
I think I'd recommend that. You wouldn't want the church encumbered by the homeowners association for the,
I would
you want to
think.
keep the 2
No,
separate.
I think what Penny's question is it a separate lot, or is it now merged with the,
With the
or
church.
is it now
Right,
with the
it's
church?
sort of, that's kind of what
Seems like
Charlie's talking about.
We should encourage that to happen, just so that the encumbrances and the restrictions for lot 9 don't fall.
And I believe that is the plan, is to
Yeah.
absorb that, not maintain it as a separate lot.
Yeah, right, but you don't want now the church to be part of the homeowners association, right?
Mhm.
You know, if I was the church, I'd want to keep that out of there.
Absolutely.
So in a way, I was wondering, is this considered, and you don't have to answer this now, but I just technically, is this considered an 8-lot subdivision or a 9-lot subdivision? Is that a boundary line adjustment to the church? So this is an 8-lot PRD? Because in some of the documents, it talks about 9 lots, and other parts it talks about 8 lots. So I just wasn't quite certain how it's viewed.
I think we kind of went over this whole thing with the density calculation at the sketch plan
Yeah, that's
review,
right.
right?
That's right.
So I would just consider, I think for these
That's right.
purposes, and listen, correct me if I'm wrong, but it'll just be absorbed into the church property
Okay.
and just taken away from, so you've got the common space and the 6 lots, right? Or 7 lots? 6 lots. 6 lots.
7 lots.
7 lots.
7 lots, 8 houses.
7 lot, 8 houses.
Okay.
And then there's an easement for the replacement area on 9, correct?
Correct, yes, partially on lot 9 and partially on the church property, but that's a replacement area designation, we call it.
Could by the way, the leach fields are not mound systems?
They are not, no.
Okay. So the replacement leach field area would need to be an easement to the homeowners association for the Harvest Crossing, probably?
Correct, when we do the final survey plat, that easement would show up and it would be
Okay.
referenced in the deeds when the lots get conveyed.
And no one else could use that. The church wouldn't, or parsonage wouldn't be using that for their replacement. It's specifically for the Harvest Crossing replacement.
That's what we're proposing now. It could be amended if the church needed it and say oversized to include the parsonage or the church, but right now it's sized just for the subdivision.
Okay. Why is there an easement, sorry, Penny Miller, why is there an easement to the church? What is it, on the, what is it, the north side of the project? Did I see there's an easement or a right of way? What is, I'm missing it right now. Here it is.
Oh, yeah, it runs along the west, or rather the east side below the swale.
Yes.
So that was intended for the church to maintain some walking path connectivity from the church parcel to Route 15. So that it would be like a easement for pedestrian access or folks going through to get out to Route 15 from the church side of the property or Harvest Run.
It's on the,
Should be on the file.
it is on the plat, and it's on the left-hand side, which is the north. It runs across the north, and it says proposed 20-foot wide easement to benefit the United Church of Underhill. This one here, which is
What is that?
Exhibit G. I think it's right before that. No, it says sheet 1 of 1. It's just the plat. It's Exhibit G, which kind of got cut off on the top of the page. And I also, if you could just remind me what that boundary line adjustment is with the neighbors, Macaulay's also, I just forget what that is.
Sharing now and not. It is sharing now. All right. So
You're on it. Right there on the left.
here with me.
It's right there. We should get you a professional person, Brad.
Are you talking about this easement?
No, you were on it, on the, to the left. Go to the left farther. We can't see it on the screen right now. You have to scoot over. You have to scoot over.
Well, it also wraps around.
No, scoot to the left.
Oh, you said.
Sorry, so north. And right there, it's that text right there. It says proposed 20-foot wide easement to benefit the United Church of Underhill. I just wondered.
Yep,
That's what you're talking
That's what we're talking about. Yep. So that wraps around the uphill side below the swale and extends out towards Harvest Run and Lot 9 that the church will be going through, and then extends within the right of way for the driveway down to Route 15. So that wraps from Route 15 east to the northeast corner of the property and then runs to the south along the east boundary all the way over to Lot 9.
Oh, okay.
I think it widens out to 40 feet on the east side.
Okay.
It's just 20 down on the north side.
And while you're there, Brad, I can't remember about the Macaulay boundary line adjustment that's part of it. I don't remember that. Can you scoot back to where you were?
Hasn't that been,
That was previously.
that's been
okay.
executed.
That was
That's been executed. That's over.
It was
Oh,
a
okay.
discrepancy before the church took control of the land, or before they completed the sale. They realized that there was a boundary line adjustment that had been approved, but deeds had never been recorded. So they cleared that up on the plat. So we wanted to keep the reference there consistent with the prior surveys.
Okay.
I jump in while we're talking about easements. I believe the last subdivision that we did with the Jacobs parcel before it was conveyed to the church included a pedestrian easement across the field. And I'm not sure if that should be showing up on this.
I don't recall seeing that in the
So
prior
I
survey.
can, so essentially the plat that O'Leary Burke prepared for when the church purchased the property. And right here at the corner of Harvest Run, on 22 Harvest Run, that's owned by Alexander now, the DRB reserved or had the applicant reserve a 10-foot pedestrian easement to get from Harvest Run to the church property. And if it's okay, Charlie, I have some comments on that, or I'd like to, or do you want to wait?
No,
So, okay, so
if you
I
want
have I have a few concerns about that. One, that would be a reasonable request if Harvest Run was a public road, right? So Harvest Run is a private road, and this pedestrian easement is going across now what's privately owned property by the Alexanders onto privately owned land by the church. So I'm not sure what the DRB had in mind, or I think Nick Atherton was here at the time, but I question the legality of that, and I also question what was the reasoning behind it.
So I'll talk about that. There's an existing culvert and existing pedestrian path there. And when we did the Alexander subdivision, there are those lots at the bottom of, if you were to extend Harvest Run.
It's on the screen.
Yeah, if you were to extend Harvest Run, people wanted to be able to walk through the field. And so we created that easement across the Alexander lot to this church lot. So that's what the request to the board was. It really affects Alexander, not this application, right?
Right. I guess my point is you're creating rights for certain individuals and not the public. I could see a reservation for a pedestrian easement if Harvest Run was a town highway and I was allowed. Right now I can't walk down Harvest Run, cross that pedestrian easement and get on legally. But something came up. I just want to point this out. Maybe it's a good time. As you can see, the green shaded area shows the class 2 wetland, right? Right here where my, so in the permitting process for the Alexanders, they came in asking for a building permit for 22 Harvest Run. And knowing that this delineation had been done, I realized that the wetland doesn't stop at the boundary. So subsequently, a delineation was done on 26 and 22 Harvest Run recently, and the wetland and the buffer now go across the access to 22 Harvest Run. 22 Harvest Run is in the process of getting wetland permits to cross that, and have been assured by the state that they can obtain those. But same goes for the 10-foot pedestrian easement. Just, I know there's an existing culvert there, but now that's all class 2 wetland, all of it.
Doesn't mean we can't walk in it.
That's true. Doesn't mean you can't walk in it. But I just wanted to put that on the record that I think my recommendation is we should consult with the town's attorney regarding that reservation.
So just so we're clear, that none of that easement or anything related to that is shown in this application. Right?
It was shown on the final plat that I provided McCain that when the church bought the property. So you're correct.
Right.
The easement is on a private piece of land.
So the easement's on 22 Harvest Run.
Right.
Not on anything germane to this application.
True. I didn't, it is shown. You're correct.
Okay. So this is our way of informing the applicant about this easement.
I would suggest referencing the deed and see if it's, if there's any language encumbering the property from that.
And speaking of easements, there was, I think still is, an easement across that easement to the Martell property. Is that correct?
There is an easement to the Martells, 30-foot wide easement at the end of the proposed development road.
Okay, and that goes through wetland.
Correct.
So they would have to do something.
Yes, they would need to, well, it goes through, for the portion that runs east-west, it's a class 3 wetland, so that would just be town permitting. Once they get to the 50-foot buffer for the class 2, that would require a state permit if they were going to try to develop a driveway through there.
That's the green. It's class 2.
Both wetlands are green because they're both protected at the town level, but from a state permitting perspective, just the class 2s and their buffers require the permits.
George, a couple other questions about Exhibit D. So in D 8.3.b, you indicated that it would either be boulders or split rail fence installed behind the properties, I believe the upper properties at the wetland buffer is what that was indicating, or at the edge of the building envelope, perhaps is what was said.
Yes, they typically be on the edge of the wetland buffer to make sure that, like every year, your lawnmower doesn't take one extra pass into the hayfield and all of a sudden they've tried to extend their lawn all the way up to the swale.
Okay.
So it'd be some distinctive feature, whether it was boulders, a fence, sugar maples, something that clearly delineates that wetland buffer boundary to make sure that there's no long-term encroachment as the property is used as a residential piece.
Is that then, would that be part of the homeowners association responsibility to maintain that or to execute that?
It would be on part of the developer to execute that.
Okay.
And then depending on the type of structure that used, if it was a long common fence, then maybe that is an HOA element. If it's individual boulders, then it's just regular lawn care and maintenance. So it would depend on what type of feature they use to delineate that boundary.
And speaking of which, the PRD standards discuss or ask the question about development schedule. Is that something that you will inform us more about? Is the development intended to go in at one time, the infrastructure all first and the development one house at a time, or all the houses together?
I believe they are looking at some grant funding to build the common infrastructure. And then they would convey the houses to Habitat for, or convey the lots to Habitat for Humanity to build houses on a phased schedule, probably 1 or 2 a year, I think is what they were discussing. So the road and the water lines and the sewer would all go in first, and then houses would get built slowly after that.
Okay, and that is all reviewed by an engineer and signed off on, certified, because you wouldn't want, if there's one person, one householder in a development, you wouldn't want that person responsible for the entire infrastructure, or if the stormwater ends up having a problem, that person be responsible.
Correct, yes. The stormwater permit will be issued to the association. It will be in the association documents for the maintenance and upkeep of those common pieces of infrastructure. And then, it's a common leach field, but each house has a individual septic tank and pump station where needed. So you'd be responsible for your own septic tank and pump station, but the common field would be a maintenance item for the whole association. Same goes for the stormwater. If there's culverts, or if that's what that runs to the back, that benefits the entire association. So that would be the responsibility of the association to maintain.
Also in Exhibit D 8.6, the modifications to the district dimensional standards, you mentioned the lot size and the property line setbacks, the side setbacks, but also the road frontage, because they're smaller lots. So I believe that would be then, it would need to be three adjustments or 3 waivers, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it need to be for the PRD request?
You are correct. I didn't add that. I found that and added it there, and then we forgot to include it in the beginning narrative.
All right.
My apologies.
Oh, that's fine. And then also in D 9.5.2.b, it talks about farmland to the east. I believe it's talking about the agricultural soils and farmland to the east, and I just wondered what that was referring to.
I'm sorry, could you give me that number again?
9.5.2.b, which is Exhibit D, 9.5.2.b, the last page of your letter. The project designates functional open space in a 5-acre parcel, which both protects wetlands and offers an area for stormwater management. This open space parcel is adjacent to farmland to the east. So I didn't know if you meant, I think there is a homeowner who has a little farm garden there. Perhaps you were talking about that. I wasn't quite certain.
No, I think that was also, I think it was meant to be that, I'm not sure what I was trying to say in there. Maybe that this was farmland originally that's being preserved, but yes, I agree. There's no farmland to the east. That's the residential development going up Jacobs Hill Road.
Well, there is a garden there, Penny. Corn growing. They have a farm stand.
Yeah, there's a garden.
Right. They have a farm stand next to the easement over that property.
George, quick question on the utility infrastructure. Is the fire district going to take over the water line, or is that TBD?
That is TBD. I don't believe we've had that fine-tuned discussion with them yet.
Okay.
Typically, well, I guess I haven't done one in Underhill for a long, long time. In most towns, they wouldn't take over responsibility for it, but they do want to make sure, like we've had discussions about the right kind of fire hydrant because they have a special connection that they want for their trucks.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they take responsibility for it, but they're certainly having input on its design.
So if there's a break in a water main right now, if the fire district doesn't take it over, it's the homeowners association that's got to fix it.
True.
Yeah. Okay.
Charlie, is that, what is typical in a development? Are you asking that just because the fire?
It's not clear on the application, so I was wondering if that hadn't been thought about yet.
Okay.
It all depends typically on what city you're in.
Is there an example of the homeowners association agreement in here that I'm missing? I see Exhibit O, which is the planned community, but we got to fly over here.
Yeah.
There is a draft HOA and maintenance agreement in there,
Excuse me?
yes.
Which one is it?
I'm looking at a different set of attachments. They're the ones I sent over versus the town website because I forgot to log into the
I can tell you.
Wi-Fi before I sat down.
It is Exhibit
Yeah, please.
O. Yeah.
Oh, but this is the homeowners association agreement here?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's more of a
Yeah,
standard.
it's pretty long. Well, there's some blank pages. It's not really 19.
Yep, and this is a draft one that is typical of what Habitat for Humanity does. So this was provided by Habitat based on what they've done for
I
other.
just
similar
kind of wanted to
developments.
understand like the road maintenance and how they're going to share their costs and if that's all stipulated in here.
It is.
Pretty clearly it is. Plowing, which is, there's just going to be one house. It's a pretty long driveway for someone to have to like maintain by themselves. Okay.
Yeah, they even have design review in there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you think Underhill regs are tough.
All right. And lawn care. And then that 5-acre parcel, is that stipulated in here? Who's going to take care of that or oversee that?
Yeah. They talk about the open space.
They
and the
do
like.
talk about it,
Yeah.
but about maintaining it?
Yeah, and how
It's
it's
in there?
shared and the like. George, this is really a question coming from ignorance. This is Penny Miller. Is there any technology that might be considered to mitigate unexpected or unexpectedly large climate issues, as in, would one want to make that ditch wider? Would that assist in holding water better? Or You mentioned at one time, this probably is a crazy idea, but you mentioned at one time that there is gravel in part of the project down 3 feet. Could catch basins be put in that would go down 3 feet that would direct water to that gravelly area, or would that undermine the structures above? Or
there are different types of infiltration practices. It becomes more akin to a wastewater design than a stormwater design when we're doing the infiltration pieces. What I think I had been referencing to was a different type of stormwater structure that's referred to as a gravel wetland. That actually it's a gravel bed that collects stormwater, but it actually maintains a permanent pool elevation and mimics the function of a natural wetland. So in this case, I'd have to think about what technologies exist for the extreme climate events. There's a lot of innovative and alternative treatments for water quality treatment, but less so for quantity. Quantity is all about volume. So it's just making bigger, like you said, maybe making that ditch wider.
what about the idea of going back to the ditch? So what about the idea with making the ditch wider? The ditch, of course, isn't just related to the proposed development. It's related to existing developments directing water, coming from one hill, coming from the Meadow Lane area, right? And coming from the Jacobs Hill area, all go into that ditch. But what about increasing the size of that ditch, or maybe the depth doesn't matter, but the width? Or
so for I guess we've got 3 ditches that we're looking at here. There's the existing upstream swale that bisects the property. There's the diversion swale on the uphill side, and then there's the treatment swale on the western side.
I meant the ditch beside anything you can think of or want to throw out. But I was specifically referring to the homeowners that showed us some photographs of, I believe it was the ditch that runs along the western side of Harvest Run, fills up, sometimes overflows. It's depending. It may not even be. I mean, I've seen this happen any number of times, that it's not necessarily a large rain event, but it might happen in the winter, that things are frozen and we get a weird wet spell, with rain, and then it doesn't infiltrate and that ditch fills up. Would it matter to create some bigger wetlands there, or who is supposed to maintain the ditch? What if trees or branches fall in the ditch, or does it need to be dredged? I remember Phil Jacobs talking about in hearings past about having to dredge the ditch. So who's responsible for maintenance, and what should that ditch, how should it manifest to be the best for the area?
Yes, I think regular maintenance for that is good. I know there are exclusions, even though that's in a class 2 wetland because it's previously constructed infrastructure. There are maintenance exemptions that are allowed for within the wetland rules to maintain that ditch. Making it bigger may require a wetland permit, but certainly maintenance in its existing condition is allowable under the wetland regulations. I do not know off the top of my head who has the legal responsibility for that. I do know we started to locate both sides of that in relation to the property line, so we could see exactly where it was and wasn't on the Harvest Run property. But I do not know, other than whoever's property it's on needs to maintain it. I don't know if there was ever any discussion of that ditch in relation to the prior subdivisions of Jacobs and who's responsible for that swale when it was originally constructed.
So since Penny opened the door, you've seen a letter from the people on Meadow Lane, right?
Yes.
So, the primary question is when Roaring Brook gets flooded, a lot of the overflow runoff, especially in the wintertime, goes into the field behind all the houses, right? This empty field that we've got. And, with the addition of new houses in there, the question is, where's the water going to go? Right? And so your grading plan demonstrates that all the runoff is going to come either flow around through virtue of the diversion ditch or through the network of culverts you're planning, eventually end up on the western side of the property into that infiltration ditch. We all seen infiltration ditches in the wintertime when the ground's frozen. They don't work too well. So it's going to overflow onto the level spreader. And then we're going to create, I'm assuming we're going to create a big lake in the class 2 wetland or class 3 wetland that's on the common area. That'll eventually work its way south towards the post office, right? That's.
I think there's a low point in that field, so I
Yeah.
think I don't believe it will inundate and head that direction. We're trying to, there's a low point about the 702 contour, which is part of the reason these wetlands exist is because this property holds water.
Yeah.
Because it is a low point.
Are any of those photos showing where the photo showing the standing water, is that where any of the new housing would be? It looks like one, there's the full length of it.
I think on the second page, if I'm not mistaken, the bottom photo of the last page, rather, I think that's the field. I think that's Harvest Run. And if you go to the upper right photo, I think that's the water from the field, either breaching the ditch and going onto Harvest Run or doing the reverse. I'm not certain.
It's hard to tell what direction that's from. If it's I
Yeah,
guess
that
it's
bottom-
overtopping the swale.
That bottom one is definitely looking to Harvest Run from the field.
But that upper left one.
And the upper left one is looking the other way,
The other way.
towards Meadow Lane. And that house right here is on Harvest Run.
Oh, right, the one to
So
the,
yeah, so the
The upper left photo. just
the upper left
Right.
is,
That's where the housing would be, to far
Yeah.
distant.
yeah.
That's-
I think that's Matt Martell's land there on in that photo to the right.
So, in filling for the housing, that water in this instance would be displaced to the other part of
to the other half of the field,
Yeah.
yes.
making it deeper, I would imagine.
Probably a little bit, yeah.
If it can go deeper, or jumping the road, jumping the ditch.
So I'm just wanting to move this along because we've been grilling George for about an hour and 10 minutes.
He's doing well.
Well, he's doing well, but we have other people in the room. I want to make sure to have an opportunity to talk. Plus, we have some remote participants I want to make sure we include.
Okay.
So Brad, George, why don't you stay there? Because some of the questions I want to get back to Brad, make sure that any other concerns that he has or he gets out in the air today. And then we'll go around the room if anyone would like to speak about the project. We'll give each person a chance to speak.
So I guess I don't claim to be any stormwater expert by any means, but I think these photos do kind of tell the story of what can happen. But given that, with that area below where your main primary septic is, below the swale, or the spreader, I guess, whatever you want to call it, that kind of seems to be a low pocket right there. In that corner, that's kind of the lowest. I'm just wondering if you're concerned at all about water settling in that corner.
Yep, no, we've tried to account for that. We've actually got, as part of that swale on the uphill side, we'll be adding a berm as well to add some height to the treatment swale that is below there. So we'll be kind of isolating off that replacement leach field area from the treatment swale and the stormwater collection that will direct it to the south and out into the field.
Okay.
Brad, are you talking about the proposed leach field just behind the fire?
Yeah, exactly. See, but George just explained that they're be creating a berm to the south of the access road coming in. And of course, as you know, in-ground septics are placed in a floodplain all the time.
Right.
So I'm not calling this a floodplain, but it could take some water.
Yep, yeah, we could,
in that corner.
depending on the state review, we may want to spec like a watertight distribution box just to make sure that if there is any ponding or something going on in the vicinity or whatnot, that it's not taking on any surface water.
Right.
But
I guess
that's a pretty
that.
common piece.
And then, so What size is the water line coming in to serve the houses or the hydrants?
6-inch water main.
I think somehow I kind of thought that the standard was 8-inch, but I was just wondering about that. I thought 8-inch was the standard to come in to serve any hydrants, and then a 6-inch T to the hydrant.
I will double check that. I think 4-inch is enough to provide fire flows. It depends on friction losses going through there. So we'll make sure that's adequately sized for fire flows. And we've got 2 hydrants at a minimum, one between lots 1 and 2, and at the end by the hammerhead turnaround. And then they had actually requested 3, so there's another one along the road at the corner of the fire department property.
And those are the hydrants that our town uses.
Correct. Yeah, we got the spec right from them.
Unlike the Mills River property that unfortunately the fire department didn't review, but they spec'd all the wrong hydrants. They spec'd all Colchester type hydrants. So
we'll make sure not to make that mistake.
Yeah, thanks. And then my only other issue was with the easement, the pedestrian easement, but I'm going to do a little more research on that myself. And other than that, I don't have any questions, any further questions.
So what we'll do now is open it up to anyone who's here at the meeting wants to participate. We're going to ask you to step away, George.
Okay.
And then we'd ask that if you do want to testify, come up, state your name, your mailing address, your residential address if it's different. And it would be helpful if we could capture your email address. So anyone?
Thank you, George.
Yes, thanks, George. Anyone interested in testifying? Okay. What we'll do is we'll go to folks online. If there's anyone online, participating remotely is what I mean by saying online. Any questions from the folks? We have 5 remote participants, aside from Mount Mansfield Community TV. Anyone online wish to ask a comment or participate? Pretty quiet.
It looks
It's a
like
good
they're all
sign.
muted. Maybe they've forgotten to unmute.
Can't, well,
Do we know who any of them are?
we do not.
Well, it looks like MMC TV, that just might be, so it might just be 3 folks.
Yeah, there's just 3 online here to be clear. Carol, DR, and BC. So Carol, if you have anything you'd like to say, please unmute, and same with DR and
Or
BC. Otherwise, we're going to pass you by.
Going once. Okay. So we kept you up there for a good hour and 15 minutes. George, do you have anything else you'd like to say? Any redirects?
I don't believe so. I think we're getting a pretty fair and accurate accounting of what we're hoping to do.
Yeah. So obviously the board is not stormwater experts, and we can't pass judgment on whether or not the stormwater management scheme is something that we can approve. So it's our ability to enlist the services of an outside consultant. What we'd like to do is have an outside consultant review the stormwater management plan because of the amount of neighbor participation about this issue. So we're going to keep the hearing open. We'd like to continue it until the 5th of August. That'll give it's the first Monday in August. It's 5th of August is the first Monday in August. I want to ask the board if we can go out, if you guys would recommend going out to a third-party consultant. We're entitled to, we're allowed to, but it'll have just a separate set of eyes on the stormwater management stuff.
I agree with that.
I think it's a good idea.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Charlie, won't be here on the 5th of August.
We'll miss you.
Okay, but you have a quorum, I believe.
So is there any other issues that the board wants a little bit more technical review on? The 8-inch versus 6-inch water line, maybe we can throw in there.
I didn't catch that, sorry, Trent.
The 8-inch versus 6-inch water
Oh,
line extension.
well, I'm sure George is going to look into that, so.
Yeah.
I'm
You're going to
not
have to
too
get
concerned.
A&R. Yeah. Right. So, some of the direction we'd like to give to the applicant is, if you have a common infrastructure improvement, such as a diversion swale at the final plat level, we'd like to see some kind of easement around it so somebody doesn't put a backyard pool in there to block the thing. Anything that's common infrastructure, we'd like to see some kind of easement around it. And one of the things that's kind of tricky, but I've been involved in these situations before, is even though the septic tanks and pump stations are privately owned, the association should have the right to go in there to repair anything that's not functioning properly or causing damage to the common infrastructure, being, you've got a force main header that's collecting everybody's force main from their pump station. If something's wrong, the association should have the right to go in and fix it.
I'll double check those HOA documents to see
Yeah.
that is not uncommon to have.
Yeah.
Maybe just come back up to the mic here just for a minute while just so we get too much. You could just respond.
Yeah, so we just want you to investigate or make sure that that type of maintenance is included in the HOA documents. I will confess that I read all 397 pages of your application. I didn't commit it all entirely to memory, but I did read it all. The things that I was interested in were like the HOA operations, the care and maintenance of the common infrastructure.
We will certainly confirm that that's in there, and if it's not, we can get that added to that for the final review
Yeah.
or for the next review.
Yeah, what we'd like to do is have our consultant look at the stormwater issue. If we can identify a consultant, we thought we had a consultant, but you guys have already hired him.
What's that?
We thought we had someone to review KAS, but you have already hired.
Oh, they had already performed work on the property.
So in order to avoid the appearance of a conflict, we have to identify it and find a new person to perform our technical review. Ideally, we'd have our technical review get comments to you before the 5th, so you'd have enough time to respond.
I would appreciate that as
And
well.
we
And
can
I'm,
walk away with approval on the 5th.
I'm out of town the week before the 5th, so that last week of July.
Yeah.
But I'll do my best to try
Okay,
to address comments if I can get them before then.
yeah, not making any promises, but we will try to do that.
Charlie, do you think the 5th is a realistic timeframe?
Well,
I mean, people
I
are
don't
busy,
know.
vacations.
These guys, I'm sure, want to move this process along.
Do you meet once a month or twice a month?
We meet twice a month.
So I mean, we could try for the 5th, and then I can just book out the 17th or what would fortnight the 19th if we need an extra 2 weeks.
We're going to work really diligently here to find someone as quick. I've got the feelers out to
Perfect.
a bunch of people. So, and I know, or I've worked, or I'm well aware of their reputation. So we'll just.
Let me
See what
ask
they
you
can
right now, do you want us to just continue it to the 15th or whatever that second hearing in August
Maybe
is?
the 19th.
19th.
I mean, it all depends on how soon you think you'd get the stormwater comments. I know
I don't know.
if somebody were looking to have us do it, I'd tell them it's in a month or 6 weeks, but I don't know.
I think it's, I think it'd be safe to keep the 5th. And then if we just had to gather to continue it again, that's what
We've got a fair contingent that are interested in the application. It'd be nice to give everybody a certain date.
Okay.
So I would ask the applicant, assuming we get you timely response, would you prefer the 5th or would you prefer the 19th?
I can make the 5th work if we have some information ready. Hopefully
Okay.
their comments are not too extensive.
I hope so too. So why don't we continue it to the 19th of, to the 5th of August at 6:30. DR. So can I take a motion to continue this application to the 5th of August at 6:30 PM?
I make a motion to continue with this hearing to the 5th of August at 6:30 PM.
Is there a second on that? So a motion by Shaney, seconded by Matt. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of continuing to the 5th of August?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so motion carries. So folks, we will see you guys on the 5th